Chat to you in a bit, man.
See you later, Fief. Bye.
See ya.
Will you get the wraps?
Yeah.
Rats are children.
Hiya, welcome to our YouTube channel, Cakes with Anna. I'm Anna from Anna Cake Couture, and this is Beth.
Hiya.
We're going to show you today how to fill a 5-inch sponge cake and decorate it with some really beautiful Lambeth-style piping. One of our favourite things to do.
Yes.
I think we should get going.
Lovely. So we pre-cut all our layers of sponge and we cut them to exactly the same height, and we have a nice gadget to do that. And it makes sure that all the sponges that we start with are super flat and exactly the same height, and that's really important when we build the cake.
We don't get any slipping.
Exactly, so that everything's level.
So we've got here a simple syrup. This is essentially 1 part sugar, 1 part water brought to the boil. And that is just a really simple recipe for a syrup that we can put on our sponge to just give it a little extra bit of moisture.
Yes.
And you can flavour it with vanilla or any other flavours to give an extra little bit of flavour to your cake. I'm going to hand that over to you, Beth.
Lovely. So I'm going to syrup every side of this vanilla sponge. So I flip the first side over, and I'm just going to get a nice load on my brush and almost paint the syrup on, and then I'm going to flip it back over and paint that back on the top. And I want to cover my cake really nice and evenly so that you don't have a really saturated part and then a really dry section. I'm just going to do that with all my layers.
You can lever your cakes with a bread knife using cocktail sticks to guide you through. It is quite hard though, isn't it?
It is. It's a skill, which is why we bought a gadget.
Yeah, we've got a sharp kind of slicer that goes through. Maybe I should get it.
Yeah,
Shall I show you?
Show the world.
So this is our mini version. This is an agbe cutter, but you can just use a bread knife.
Yeah.
It is just more difficult, and you might end up with a slightly more wonky cake, but you can fix that by making sure your buttercream is flat.
Yes.
You must make sure that each layer that goes on the cake is flat, otherwise you will end up with a
Yes, a teetering sponge.
Yeah.
So I've syruped my layers of sponge. We're going to load each one with raspberry jam. Now, the raspberry jam we use, we make it ourselves, and it's quite strong because we use a puree, so it's got that little bit of tartness to it. So you don't actually want to layer it on too thick because it is just very slippery.
If you have too much jam, the jam will slide on the cake, even if the cake is firmed up. So keeping a layer that's slightly thinner is a safer option.
Yes.
So this is our vanilla buttercream. I'm just going to give it a good mix for you, Beth.
Thank you.
Here we go. Just trying to get out any air bubbles here. We can give you the recipe for our buttercream. We've also got another video where we show you how we make our sponges and our buttercream.
So in order to get the same amount of buttercream in each layer of sponge, we use a scoop. This is a size 12.
12 what?
12 what?
Who knows? Just a 12.
And that gives us exactly the same in every layer. And we just use a nice flat scoop, and it's real satisfying to plop out. And then I'm going to spread that super evenly along the cake. And it's really important to make it level. To do that, I just spin and hold my palette knife. And then if your buttercream comes out of the edge, that's a good thing. We want the buttercream to reach the edge of the cake, and a bit of overspill is fine, as long as it's not too overspilled and you've pushed all of your buttercream out to the edge, you're good.
This can be wiped off at the end, so it's just a good way to know that you've got the buttercream all the way to the edges. This is our really traditional Victoria sponge recipe. Would you say it's like 80% of our cakes are vanilla and raspberry?
It's a fairly hefty portion.
It is, isn't it? It's definitely for wedding cakes anyway.
Yes, wedding cakes, it's very popular. It's just a classic. If you're getting a birthday cake, I think people go for vanilla and raspberry because they know that everyone will like it.
Yeah, it's just like your traditional go-to British cake.
Yes.
Go
So
on.
I've got the overspill that I was talking about earlier. That's fine because I'm going to take my palette knife and just wipe around the edges. So I'm holding my palette knife against the cake, nice and firm, and just taking off. So I've taken off all the excess, and I can just get rid of that in the bin. And I have a nice straight base to work from.
Yeah, it's important to make sure that your cake is straight from all angles. So we always encourage people here to give your cake a spin just to make sure that you've got straight from every angle here. And this looks a bit rough around the edges,
does.
but that's okay because this is just the initial coat, and we will go back over this and add another layer, which we call our crumb coat, to make it all look beautiful. So do not fear at this stage. Right, do you want to go and put that in the fridge?
Yes, I'm going to pop this in the fridge and let it set because it's a little bit like wibbly wobbly. I've got the cake out of the fridge. You can see it's like not wobbling quite as much anymore. It's a firm base.
Yep.
So we're going to do our crumb coat. This is to seal all the crumbs in. That's why it's called a crumb coat. Very clever.
Is that noise a problem?
So we're going to do our crumb coat. So this is to seal all the crumbs inside this layer of buttercream. So this layer might look a little bit messy, but that's what
It's okay to look messy
that's
at this
what
stage.
We're going for.
Yeah.
You can use any palette knife you want. I go for the biggest implement I can because I think it swoops nicer. But if you only have a smaller one at home, that works just the same. So I'm just going to use, what is this called?
A scraper?
A scraper. I use a nice one that is exactly the same height as the cake because I find that just easier to work with. There's much taller ones, there's much wider ones. We just have little dinky ones for the 5 inches. And then I'm pulling it around. I'm keeping my scraper like level to the cake so I get a nice straight edge. And I'm just going to pull all the icing around. And so I've pulled a lot of that away, but it's sealed all the crumbs in my mouth.
Water, my friend?
Yes. So I'm scraping all the way around in a nice even swoop, and I want to hold my scraper straight up to the cake so that I get a nice straight edge. And then I'm just going to pull. My top's looking rough, so I'm just going to use the cake as a nice base to pull away all of that excess.
Again, this isn't the stage where we're making it perfect.
No.
You can literally see the crumbs in the buttercream of this cake. This is why it is called the crumb coat, catching all of those little bits of cake that could ruin the outer layer.
Yeah.
This will then be put into the fridge to chill, so it just goes, you know, firm to touch. And then we can put our chosen colour and perfect finish on the outside.
Yeah. So I just noticed that I was a little bit top heavy, so I put a little bit more on the bottom. Great, I think we're there. And I'm going to pop this back in the fridge to set.
So we have got our coloured buttercream here. We've chosen to go for a very soft peach.
Yeah.
We're going to go for a light colour on the outside so that we can use brighter tones for our piping on the top. I've used Americolour peach, just a tiny little bit in there. It's very strong. Here you go, Beth.
Thanks.
You can layer that on.
So my crumb coat is nice and firm now. It's been set up in the fridge so that I can dollop
Nice thin
this on. Again, I use the largest implement I can, and I'm just going to spread that around the cake. This part can be fairly rough because we're going to go in and smooth it in a bit. So I just want to make sure that the whole cake is covered at this point.
That is a fast paddle you're doing. Very fast at that.
This is what I'm good at. When I go on decorating, I'm like, can I crumb coat and cover, please? That's my forte. So I've just made sure that my top is smooth and covered, because even though I'm going to scrape my edges, actually the top I'm probably going to leave about there. So I'm going to go back in with my scraper, but I've got a little pot here with boiling hot water in. Oh, can I get a bit of blue roll or a tea towel? And this helps to get a really nice smooth finish, because my scraper's going to retain that bit of heat, and it's going to work the butter in the buttercream. I don't actually know the science. It just makes it hot.
Well, it smooths it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It melts the buttercream a little bit to give you a really nice smooth outside.
So I'm going to fill in my little holes that I've made. One final swoop.
There she is.
There we go. So I've got a nice, smooth enough base for my cake. And then this lip, I'm going to leave, and I'm going to stick it in the fridge, and then we'll chop it off. And that's how you get a nice, sharp edge to your cake.
Let's do it. Let's get it in the fridge.
So this cake's straight out of the fridge, so we've got like a firm lip.
Yes, very firm.
And then I'm just going to use a super sharp knife and trim the top off.
So this just gives a really nice sharp edge. We are actually going to pipe over the top of it, so we don't even need it to be that perfect.
To be crazy good.
So we'll just show you how we flip our cakes onto our cake boards.
So I've got another acrylic, and that's going to go on top. And then I want to hold this nice and steady, flip it upside down, and then I'm going to prise this off. So you just want to lift each of the sides off and then flip him over.
A little bit of extra buttercream on the base.
Take that off.
Great. So we have got our chilled covered cake ready to be decorated with our Lambeth piping.
Yes.
My favourite thing to do.
Yeah, this is where I hand over to Anna.
Very
She's the pro piper.
Very excited about doing this. Okay, so I'm going to start off by just talking about turntables. So this is a very traditional looking turntable. When it comes to piping on the sides of the cake, I really like this one here. This is I think it's a PME turntable, and it's got this really clever contraption on it, which means that it gets a tilt on the side. It's just brilliant. It makes your piping on the side so much easier. So I'm going to transfer my cake on there. I'm going to make some markings on here. This is a Wilton marker. Now I want to mark out 5 perfectly spaced out marks on my cake. I've got another tool to do this. This is a dividing sheet. I've had this for a really long time. What you can do is place the cake on this sheet, and it basically tells you where your perfect portions are. So I want to make 5 separate portions here. So I look for the 5s on here, and I'm going to start off by making a mark on the first 5. Make a tiny little dunk in there. I find the next 5, and then the next 5 is here. Great, now I know I have got 5 really equally marked out spaces. So I'm going to go back onto my turntable. Let's move these out of the way, they are done for. Okay, I'm going to start piping. My first nozzle is a Wilton 18. I'm going to nip off the end of my piping bag, put my nozzle inside, and I'm going to start with the same colour buttercream that I have covered the cake with. So I'm going to start off by piping a shell all around the top edge of my cake. I have a stance. I have a piping stance.
If you could see the other side, would you like a view? Because it's quite.
It's a strong stance. I want to be right at the level of my cake down here, and the easiest way to do that is to do the piping stance.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm off. I'm going to do this. So I'm just piping shells around the top edge of the cake. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my next nozzle.
Yes.
Bethany Hobbs, please could you put the coral buttercream into the ribbon nozzle? I'll show you this nozzle. It's one of my favourite nozzles. It doesn't actually have a name on it, but it's an Amazon nozzle. So a really thin nozzle that just pipes what we call a ribbon that comes out of it. It's a really fun skill to learn. You know, you can go wrong, but you can scrape stuff off and start again. And the colour choices that you can do, like you can make this wild.
Yeah. We had a gentleman order a cake for his 93-year-old grandma, and it was hot pink and orange. It also had like cherries on top. It was all the things. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I don't know if Grandma enjoyed it quite as much as we did. If you're out there, Grandma, let me know.
Drop us a line. So I'm just piping these swags around the outside of the cake. My thin nozzle means that I can do a little movement which gives me a little squiggle.
They were the original. That's where the phrase, like my swag, I think comes from.
Do you reckon?
No.
Did you just make that up? Great. This is such a popular
It's really
trend.
trendy.
Yeah. The frillier, the more you can get on the cake is the
Gauche.
trend. Yeah. I'm just going to do a frill on the top of the cake here. I'm just going to hold my piping bag to the side and just let the nozzle do the work, really.
This is super satisfying. It looks like a Viennetta.
Oh, Viennetta. Okay, so we've got the nozzle just doing the work. Sit down, Fief. Will you get the wraps?
Rats
Okay.
are children.
Right, so our next nozzle is going to be our fatter shell. It's plenty. Thank you, assistant. All right, so we've got our third colour. The nozzle we've got in here is a Gem 1ES. We've used this nozzle before in a few videos that we've done, but this just gives you a really nice, chunky shell. So I'm going to start off by doing the shell around the base of my cake. So I'm going to just tilt my turntable back a little bit, like this. And then I can start my shells at the base.
Tilting cakes feels quite like a risky business.
Especially when you've got a 5-tier cake.
Yeah.
being done.
I built one for my friend once and I stuffed it. Like, the cake was so heavy because I put like cookies in the middle of it as
Hey,
well.
what are you doing that
And it was
for?
excellent cake. But when I was piping it, it just like slipped straight off the end.
God.
But
Did you fix it?
yeah, it was fine. But Chloe, who works here, got a picture of me like presenting this cake. But I was like, the picture, I'm just stood over it like. It's quite funny.
All right, so I've done my top shells and now I'm going to go on the sides of the cake and I just want to cover my joins of my swags. I want to come down to cake height and I'm just going to pipe up and pull it down. I'm just going to work my way around the base of the cake. I'm now going to go over with the final swirl around the base. It's a bit more swirly. This actual style is called Lambeth piping, and it used to be done in royal icing on wedding cakes many years ago, and it kind of fell out of fashion, and it has just come back into fashion
Yeah.
with a vengeance.
Like tenfold.
Yeah.
I think we're just.
Oh.
I think we're quite gaudy at the moment.
And now I'm going to just put my little dots underneath my separated shells.
Is that ready made?
Got a little piping bag here with a little number 2 nozzle circle, and I'm just going to pipe little dots underneath my shells. I'm going to go for a bigger one at the top, a slightly smaller one, and then a smaller one again.
Cute.
That is a seriously
Love it.
frilled cake. I don't know if we need to add anything else to it.
Do you think it's all right? Should we look?
Do we put glitter cherries
Let's
on?
look at cherries.
maraschino cherries. Very 70s.
Yeah, it is.
Very back in fashion at the moment. In between our...
Yes. Cute.
Yeah, that is one serious,
It's good.
seriously frilly cake, isn't it?
Yeah.
Actually, this is another trend that's coming in, isn't it?
Yeah.
These huge, flat, one-tier cakes.
Like whacking great.
Yeah, 16-inch, like...
Which I want to get into heavily.
I think we'll do a video.
Yeah, let's do that.
We'll do a video. So this is our finished Lambeth-style piped cake. All the frills.
All the frills.
All the frills. We're going to leave in the notes below the nozzles we've used, the buttercream recipes we've used.
Yep.
Any other information that we've missed off that you want to know, drop us a line.
Be in the notes below.
Feel free to check out any of our other videos. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Water, my friend?
No, I'm fine. I don't know how I got Crumb in my mouth. Did you get Crumb? It was like, yeah. And I was like, cool.